Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Innocent Until Proven Guilty. This will be Part 4, Chapter 4, entitled Monday Morning. Monday morning arrived quick for Izuku, who had spent the weekend alone as expected. His mother was away for the remainder of the weekend, excluding that Friday night. Though they didn't speak, nor cross paths then either. Izuku woke up earlier than usual that Monday morning, remembering his plans to meet Shoto before class to talk. He had been anxious about it all weekend, hardly sleeping at all. If it weren't for the chamomile tea, last night he forced himself to drink it out of desperation at 1 a.m. He doubts he would have managed to sleep then either. Izuku hurried through his usual morning routine of a quick homemade breakfast, shower, and knocking out a few cleaning tasks to keep the house in order. He had developed a habit at a young age of taking care of their home, even if it was out of necessity. However, despite moving into the dorms, he kept up his cleanliness. It was a routine, and routines were consistent and good for Izuku. In times where he found himself anxious, hypervigilant, or just on edge, a few tasks could help to refocus and settle his mind. It didn't always work, but it was one of the ways he preferred to self-soothe. It gave control in the chaos. If I'm going to be a mess, at least I can keep everything else in order. After completing a few small tasks, dishes, sweeping, and straightening the living room, Izuku packed his bag to head to school. He didn't want to risk missing his train and being late to meet with Shoto. Heading to the door, Izuku took one last glance around the apartment, hoping for once to feel something, but held that same numbness as always. With a sigh, Izuku walked out and locked the door, set to head to UA. Upon his arrival at the school, Izuku felt a weight being lifted that he hadn't noticed until now. Being at UA always brought him a sense of peace, of belonging. It felt more like coming home than anywhere else for Izuku. In order to ease the students' concerns, we wanted to see if you would consent to a questioning of your son. His mentor's words rang through his mind, halting all his other thoughts. The relief he felt upon walking up to the gates now replaced with a growing anxiety that something terrible was going to happen today. He wondered what his classmates could have been worried about. Did I do something? Did I say something to upset one of them? Kamino had just happened, and while Izuku was one to go and try to save Kachan, he wasn't the only one, so that couldn't be it. As he made his way into the building and toward the 1A classroom, he spotted a flash of red and white bicolored hair. Frozen in place, Izuku watched Shoto's approach in awe, taking in his appearance. Shoto had on the standard UA blazer, but Izuku thought it never failed to suit him. His head was tilted down slightly, eyes hidden by his hair. He had his hands in his pockets, and his backpack was secured with just one strap over his left shoulder. From just a few steps away from Izuku, Shoto started to look up, and Izuku's breath caught. Heterochromatic eyes met his own, and he was instantly lost. Every worry and stress from the past few days faded. Beautiful. Shoto's eyes seemed to widen slightly upon noticing him, and then immediately softened. Most wouldn't be able to tell. To anyone else it would seem like his usual stoic expression. But Izuku knew differently. His posture relaxed slightly, almost as though he were releasing a breath he had been holding. It was visible in the way his shoulders lowered a bit, and the corners of his mouth lightly twitched upwards. Izuku had a tendency to try to read the cues of others, a trait he'd learned when he was young as well. Out of all the people he has tried to read, Shoto is his favorite book of all. Shaking himself of his thoughts, Izuku calls out to him. "Good morning, Shoto," he starts. "How was your weekend?" The other boy takes the last few steps to meet him face to face. "My weekend could have been better if I had been spending it with my best friend," Shoto answered, a hint of teasing to his tone, layered with sincerity. "How was yours, though, Izuku? Did you have a nice time with your mom?" he asked. "It was a quiet weekend at home. Just happy to be back at UA, honestly. I missed you all." Izuku answers easily, with a soft smile that he knows reaches his eyes. He means it, after all. The other, however, seems to sour a bit at his words and shifts his eyes away. Right. With Shoto's arrival, Izuku completely forgot the whole point of their conversation. "Shoto, what's going on? Is everything all right? I know you wanted to talk this morning, and I'll be honest, I've been a bit worried since Friday," Izuku whispered. His friend was still looking away and had yet to respond, so Izuku grabbed his hands gently to get his attention. Gray and blue eyes snapped to meet his as he clasped Shoto's hands between his own with a tight grip. "Talk to me," Izuku pleaded. "Izuku, Shoto started, but was cut off by a voice coming over the school speakers. "Izuku Midoriya, please report to the principal's office instead of morning homeroom," Principal Nezu chirped out. Schooling his features, Izuku glanced to the nearest corner where a hidden security camera rested. He should have expected this, honestly. He knows he is being interrogated or questioned for something. It seems the principal doesn't want him to know all the details quite yet. Interesting. With a barely discernible nod at the camera, Izuku turns back to Shoto with a small smile. "It's okay. We can talk later today, don't worry," he assures. Shoto looks crestfallen, like he desperately wants to tell Izuku what he knows. Izuku can't recall ever seeing this much clear emotion from the other boy outside of a fight, so he's taken aback for a moment. This is serious. Giving his hands a light squeeze, he turns his head toward Principal Nezu's office, ready to face this. He makes it 2 steps before he hears a bag hit the floor and feels a warm hand on his own, stopping him. Before he knows it, he's being pulled into Shoto's chest as his arms wrap around him. Stock still for a moment from surprise, Izuku slowly melts into the embrace and wraps his arms around Shoto just as tightly. His face is buried in the other's chest as he feels breath by his ear. "I promise you, no matter what happens, I will always be here. I am on your side, always. You will never lose me, never," Shoto declares in a fierce whisper, just loud enough for him to hear. As he speaks the words, his embrace tightens. It is as though he fears letting Izuku go at all. They stand in silence for a few moments, and Izuku has never felt so protected. He would say he's surprised, but he and Shoto have always had a deeper level of understanding, of trust. "You'll never lose me either, Shoto," Izuku assures, fisting his hands into the back of the other's shirt tightly. "I will always be on your side too, you know that. Always." Shoto takes a shuddering breath but doesn't release his grip on Izuku. The sound of students arriving into the building breaks them out of their own world. "I have to go now," Izuku whispers softly, as he starts to pull away reluctantly. Shoto lets him. Leaning back, Izuku makes eye contact with him and conveys he will be all right with no words at all. Shoto, as always, understands. Izuku steps back with a small reassuring smile. He turns to head to Nezu's office. His eyes meet every hidden camera as he does. Face impassive and unreadable. Nezu was intrigued by Midoriya Izuku. Not because the boy was All Might's successor. That had little to do with it at all, truly. No, what intrigued Nezu was the boy's mind. Currently, Midoriya is heading to his office, and he has looked directly into each of the hidden security cameras set up. He hasn't missed a single one. Nezu had seen the boy looking at them before, but merely assumed they were accidental at least, or he found one or two at most. Now, though, Nezu had been proven wrong. And he seemed to have underestimated the child. Not only in this regard either. No, Nezu had no clue of the level of brilliance that sat within his own school every day. Not until reading the notebooks of this child after his meeting with Aizawa. Analysis was too small a word for the genius that lies in those pages. The boy had the ability to dissect others to the smallest detail, picking apart weaknesses that so many others would merely overlook. However, on that same token, the boy could create efficient plans to mitigate those weaknesses or eliminate them altogether. For the first time in a long time, Nezu was genuinely interested in learning more about a human. The last to pique his interest was Aizawa himself, but even then, there was something missing. Nezu had a suspicion that Midoriya has what he's been searching for. As the boy approaches, Nezu sets one final glance to the stack of notebooks on his desk, takes a sip of his tea, and sets the doors to open as Midoriya goes to knock. As he goes to knock on the large wooden doors to Principal Nezu's office, the doors open for him before he has the chance to make contact. Izuku goes to school his expression but stops himself. He needs to play the part here. Be nervous. Stutter just enough. Fail to make eye contact. Taking a deep breath, Izuku makes his way inside. As he enters, he notes a wall of windows behind the principal, all of which appear to have heavy security. There are 2 vents leading into the room, both of which are near the ceiling. Full cowling would be needed to access either. There are no other doors than the ones Izuku has just entered. His eyes continue to scan until they fall on the stack of notebooks on the principal's desk. Are those? Good morning, Midoriya-kun. Please, have a seat. Nezu directs cheerily, with a paw pointed towards the chairs opposite his desk. Izuku ducks his head and shuffles over, doing as told and awaiting further instructions. Play the part, Izuku. Now, we have much to discuss. Would you care for some tea? Nezu offers, risking a glance upward at the principal so as to not appear rude. Izuku shyly nods. Yes, sir. Thank you. Izuku stutters quietly, refusing to look at what is absolutely his analysis notebooks. Nezu stares at him, face unchanging but eyes calculating. He seems to find what he's looking for, though, because he smiles just a bit sharper than before. Of course, Midoriya-kun. It's my pleasure. Nezu responds. He pours a cup of tea for Izuku and quickly passes it over. Izuku takes it with trembling hands. I'm sure you're wondering why you're here, so I'll explain. Nezu starts. On Friday, one of your classmates, without your permission, entered your room and took these notebooks to show the rest of your classmates. Nezu gestures to the objects in question. Izuku looks at them, then back to Nezu. Now, rest assured, your classmate is being punished for their actions. However, this is not what we needed to discuss. As I'm sure your mother mentioned, your classmates raised some serious concerns and claims about you. Now, the staff here at UA do not take these claims seriously. However, upon trying to rationalize with your fellow classmates, they are not inclined to believe the staff. Nezu pauses, and Izuku can't contain his question. What is their concern, Principal Nezu? I'm sorry, I still don't quite understand what my notebooks have to do with any of this. Nezu holds eye contact with Izuku, beady black eyes boring into emerald green. As time seems to freeze for a moment, Izuku swears he sees a reflection of himself in Nezu's eyes. It catches him off guard completely. He forgets to keep up his act. His own eyes turn sharp and calculating as well. Nezu hums and continues. Well, Midoriya-kun, it appears most of your classmates are convinced from the contents of your analysis notebooks that you are a traitor. Nezu continues speaking, but it's all muffled. Izuku feels like his ears are filled with cotton. His hands shake, for real this time. He can't breathe. Traitor. They think you're a traitor. They don't trust you. Traitor, 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 traitor. Nezu watches in fascination as Midoriya registers what he just said. He expected the boy to burst into tears, to adamantly assure his own innocence, perhaps for the boy to break down completely. What he didn't expect was to watch the boy have a full-blown panic attack and bring himself down again. Nezu watches as Midoriya's hands shake, much more genuine than earlier. Interesting. He watches as the boy's breathing becomes ragged and short. Moving to call Chiyo to come assist the boy, Nezu stops as Midoriya shifts his gaze to a spot on the wall to his right. He watches the boy blink slowly 3 times before he takes a deep breath and seems to calm himself. So, the boy is capable of unnatural levels of self-soothing. Nezu keeps still as Midoriya slowly turns back to face him, eyes locked with his own and full of determination. Nezu sees it then. Sees himself in Midoriya. What made you this way? Is this why you plan to question me, sir? Midoriya asked calmly. That is correct. Our plan is to have Detective Tsukauchi present to assist in asking you a few questions. As you know, he has a lie detector quirk, suitable for this sort of thing. In addition, we will administer a truth serum. That way we can assure you are speaking your full truth, Nezu explains. Midoriya merely nods. Expression, one of solemn acceptance. I understand, sir. When is this taking place? The boy asks. We will be performing this on Friday. That is when the detective will be available. You will be excused from classes that day. I'm sure you understand that this is the best method for assuring that your classmates' fears and suspicions are taken care of and negated, Nezu states firmly. Izuku nods again, unsure of what else to say in this situation. There's more to this that Principal Nezu isn't saying. His wording about Izuku speaking his full truth had unnerved him, but he knows he won't get any answers out of him. So Izuku merely accepts the information Nezu gives him. Their conversation ends shortly after that, with Nezu sending him off to the last few minutes of homeroom. Izuku walks through the halls to Class 1A fully numb and resigned. It's like walking back to his apartment with his mom. Perhaps UA is more like home than I thought. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 4 of Innocent Until Proven Guilty. Chapter 5 will be up next. As the writer for this one, I would love to hear any thoughts and reactions you guys had to this chapter, because I had a lot of fun writing it initially. I really like the fact that this is the first one that I'm recording where there's that direct interaction between Nezu and Izuku. Up until this point, the only Nezu appearances really took place either as him as just a background character or him meeting with Aizawa. So you don't really get a lot of Nezu point of views until this chapter, so I really liked it. I thought it was great, maybe some of those parallels. And I also love Izuku and Shoto, so I had to kind of try to put them together, throw some fluff in there too. A little bit of angst, right? Because Shoto doesn't get that opportunity to kind of tell Izuku what he wants to, but the effort was made, right? The plan was in place. He was trying to protect him, and a lot of reassurances on their part, right? That things are going to be okay for the two of them at least. So I'd love to hear your reactions because it fuels me, it gives me energy to keep writing. So drop those comments below. Do me a favor there. And as always, thank you all so much for listening.